Welcome. My name is Alex Mondosian, and today the masterclass is all about scaling strategies to instantly boost your business value. Biz value is business value. Now, what is scaling? Okay. What's the definition of scaling? Many entrepreneurs are solopreneurs. They think they have to do it themselves. So what's scaling defined for any business? Scaling means that you can boost the size of your business and you can generate a bigger container of how fast you can grow by having other people do things for you so that you don't have to be the only one doing it. The only way you can scale, and it comes from a term that is in technology, such as a networking, between computers. When you scale something, for example, the internet is scaled, right? It grows, and it grows very, very quickly. But most businesses aren't set that way because you don't have the right people in the right seats in your business doing the right thing. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make money, then that's a good thing, but you'll have a ceiling of how much money you can make unless you have other people who create not only value for you, but have a documented way to do their tasks and fulfill their priorities. Like McDonald's. If you've ever been to a McDonald's, and I can't imagine you haven't, but you probably have heard of McDonald's, when the French fries are made, there is a step-by-step process that every French fry maker is going through. Now, you get the frozen French fries from the freezer. You put certain number of fries into the basket. You put the basket into the oil. It boils, and then the buzzer goes off. You bring it up. How long do you let it drain? That's in the documentation. And then what do you pour on top? You pour salt. And how many French fries do you put into each of the containers to hand over to the customers? That is all about documentation so that you can recreate and you can duplicate the task so that you don't have to do it. And that's what scaling is all about. Now, why? Why is scaling so important? Now, whether you're a startup or maybe you've made some money, but you're stuck, or maybe you're attempting to sell your business, why is scaling the key to your financial freedom? Well, the first reason is there's no way you can have financial freedom if you don't scale your business. And it doesn't make sense not to think about scaling when you're starting up, even if you've made no money, because it's like planting a tree. If you put it in a pot that's very small, the tree can only grow so big because the root system will be confined to how big that pot is, whether it's 1 meter or 2 meters wide and a few meters deep. But if you plant that tree into the soil, then that tree, like an oak tree, can grow very, very big because the root system can grow. And that's what scaling is allowing the root system of your business to grow. All right, here's the next question. How can startups, now if you're just starting up, if you haven't made much money, or if you're struggling, how can startups scale without any hassle? In other words, without a lot of work. Well, the first thing is, how do you do what you do, and then documenting that. So anything that you do, if you're a startup, when you start, you do everything. You pay the bills, you do the accounting, you do the sales, you do the promotion, you do the presentations, and then you hire someone. Now, when you hire that person, and even if it's just one person, the first person I ever hired was a bookkeeper, not a salesperson, because I wanted that bookkeeper to stay busy, and I was the person selling. I recommend that's the first person that you hire, is a bookkeeper. So if you don't have something documented for that bookkeeper to do, and a bookkeeper's managing the finances, then how is that person supposed to learn? And when you have documentation for them, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, you have the task, you have the purpose of the task, and then all the steps. If they don't have that, then there's no way they can improve it. They have to start from scratch. And many times people who are startups, entrepreneurs who are startups, whether it's in North America or overseas or abroad, the biggest mistake they make is they don't document or write down what each of the tasks are that they take for granted. Like, for example, how do you do a Facebook Live? Well, our production manager has a step-by-step process. What's the purpose of a Facebook Live? To get as massive reach as possible, right? That's the purpose and that's the intention. How do you do a Facebook Live? Well, there's two ways. If it's live, like this is, then we use what's called BeLive.tv so that we can utilize some of its benefits. And we're not going directly on Facebook because I'm using my desktop and it's much easier to use BeLive.tv. What do you do if it's pre-recorded? Well, I pre-record on Zoom and then we pre-schedule that on Facebook, and we can do that up to a week in advance, and that's a completely different procedure. So the things that you take for granted, those things need to be documented so that when you hand it to someone, that person at least has a template or a blueprint of what to do with step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And many people don't do that because they're so busy trying to make money and pay the bills. They don't realize that the only way to grow is to have other people help you grow and assist you to grow. Sir Richard Branson, I've shared the stage with Richard Branson before. He thinks his employees are more important to him than his customers, because if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your customers. So the customer is not always right. Your employees or team members or independent contractors, I think, are more important because they will allow you to grow. So what are 3 strategies to scale your business and sustain? The key word is sustain, to sustain growth. All right. It's not sexy. It's not fun to think about. It's work. I don't like doing it. But number 1 is to document the tasks that are routinely executed. If you document the tasks, the things that you're used to doing, like, for example, when I do a Facebook Live every Friday, like I've done for many, many years, the first 10 minutes is engaging with people so that we get a lot of interaction. And I ask people to click the share button, SHARE, the 5-letter word that's probably the most important word in all of social media. You click share, and now that Facebook Live is on someone else's Facebook fan page or Facebook group or Facebook profile, wherever they're assigning it to, right? So the first 10 minutes of the Facebook Live show that we do every Friday at 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. East Coast time, and probably 8 or 9 p.m. in parts of Europe, we do engagement. And then for the next 30 to 35 minutes, I do what's called a masterclass, which is what I'm doing right now. Now, the masterclass is video, and then we pull out the audio, and then we pull out the written transcript and enhance it with my content manager. Now, when we do that, now we can sell it, and it goes into our members area, and it's called Masterclass Theater. And the reason we do that is because we take something that is free and a public service, and we add to it by repurposing it, and then we get it paid. And then the final 10 minutes of the Facebook Friday show is takeaways or ahas or distinctions that people who were there and were live got. And so people type that in as well. And my production manager comes on and takes that. Now, that's a process. That's a standard operating procedure. It's called SOP. And we can document that. If we don't document it, we know how to do it. But if we don't document it, if something happens to me, if something happens to my content manager, if something happens to my production manager, then what? Then we have to start from scratch. But that's not the way McDonald's works. That's not the way Subway works. They have things that are documented. They give you a complete manual. And I want you to treat your business that way, no matter how big it is. Okay, number two strategy is train your team as if they were franchisees. Now, what does this mean? Well, a franchise is the process of duplication. The best example is McDonald's, because that's what is taught in the business schools in the US and abroad. And why do they teach McDonald's versus any other franchise? Is because the McDonald's brothers had an optimized business in pumping out a lot of hamburgers and French fries and soft drinks. And they built a store that was very profitable in San Bernardino, California, which is about an hour and a half from where I grew up in Pasadena, California. Ray Kroc came along and he wanted to duplicate that optimized store in multiple locations, and that's called a franchise. It's a legal term, but the franchisee is actually paying a royalty for the documentation month after month or year after year. And instead of starting up from scratch, they're buying into something that they know works. And McDonald's franchises can cost over $1 million just to acquire a McDonald's franchise, right? Then you got the royalty that you're paying the McDonald's corporation. You have all the training. So instead of making mistakes on your own, the franchisee ends up learning what you've already taught them. Now, let's pretend that you are a franchisor. You're the one who's creating that franchise. Well, if you train your team as if they're franchisees and you do it in a formal way, most business at a startup level is informal. In fact, most businesses under $1 million, they're very informal. You know, it's almost like they're treating each other like family. And the challenge with that is you can't grow to the 3 million or 10 million or $30 million level until you have the mindset of scaling. And that's the topic of this masterclass. Now, here's the third strategy. Expect plan B to replace plan A. That's a strategy. What's plan B? All right, let's say you have the greatest bookkeeper you've ever met. Or let's say you have the greatest personal assistant you've ever met. Or let's say you have the greatest affiliate manager you've ever met. I don't know who you've ever hired, because I don't know if we even met other than right now. But let's say you have someone who's really, really good at what they do. All right, what if they get a different offer? What if they have an idea to start their own business based on what they've learned from you? What if they decide that they want to retire and they don't want to work anymore? What if they're having a baby and they can't work for a year? Well, and I'm assuming that they're a woman in that case, plan B means someone else who's going to replace that person. So anyone who you hire, anyone that you have in a specific position, even if it's your first person, what's your plan B? What if that person is no longer there? What's the plan B? Plan A is that person. Plan B is the next person. Now, let's say you have a promotion. Let's say you have a joint venture that you're doing. Plan A is that joint venture. What if it doesn't work? What if it loses money? Plan B is what comes afterwards. I remember I partnered with a friend of mine, Steve Olsher, and we launched a product called Push Button Influence. And I was expecting to do $2 or $3 million from that launch over the term of 2 weeks. And we had over 85,000 prospects that came in, and we didn't even pass the $400,000 mark. Now, there's numerous reasons why that happened. I think it was my responsibility to get those sales done, and I failed to do it after all these years. It was demoralizing, it was humiliating, it was embarrassing, but our first goal was to pay our affiliate partners. And plan B was, how do we make money from all of these leads that we had? And so I didn't have a plan B. I just had plan A, which was the launch. And so plan B came about through another colleague of mine. His name is Doug Brown. And he said, look, you have all of these people who are there. They want to learn how to influence people by pushing buttons, like the share button or the retweet button or the post button. It's all social media, right? Getting exposure, getting more visibility and reach. That's what the course was about. And it's part of our Guerrilla Business online training. It's part of our membership site. And so what I was given a plan B option to do is, why don't we sell them personalized coaching on how to do this? You sold the how-to course for $2,000. Why don't we just do one-on-one coaching for $100,000 for a year, or $30,000 for 6 months, or $12,000 for group training? Well, the launch generated less than $400,000, but Plan B, thanks to Doug, generated nearly $1 million. Now imagine if we had Plan B in mind prior to launching. And that's what I've been teaching my colleagues and friends who are in the digital marketing space. So Plan A is not enough. That's your first choice. What about your second choice? Because number one may not be around forever. So you want to make sure you have a number two. Sometimes a Plan C is good too. So the key point is grow your business as if it is a franchise. And that means document it. That means make it more formal. That means train your people to know their job and then have them document it so that when they're gone, because they're Plan A, Plan B will come in and they'll be trained a lot faster. All right, what about 5 pitfalls to avoid that constantly prevent business growth? Now, a pitfall is where you go into a hole and you can't get out, right? So the first pitfall or error, I believe, is treating your business and team members as if they're family versus they're a professional team. Now, the company culture is not to be family. I don't believe in that. I used to, but the worst thing you can say is, hey, we're all family. Well, you can't get rid of family. I'm sure there's family members that you don't like. I'm sure there's family members you wish that you didn't have to meet during the holidays. So having family in your business is not a good thing because it's very difficult to get rid of them if they're not doing their job. But if you look at them as a team, as a professional team, let's say European football, which is soccer. Now, if that striker or that forward is not doing their job, they'll be traded or they'll be let go or they'll be on the bench. If the halfback or fullback is not doing their job, if the goalie is not doing their job, then they'll be let go. With family, okay, it's fine. Just keep them there. They'll improve. With a professional team mindset is they're not doing their job, so we got to replace them with Plan B. So treating your business and your team like family is a mistake. Treating them as a professional team, making sure they're playing each position, whether it's finance or sales or operations, whatever it is, presentation, production, content, whatever you decide to hire for, treat them as a professional team member versus a family member. Next, that no weekly huddles is a big mistake. That's a pitfall. What's a weekly huddle? All right. Well, the team interactions, whether you are in a physical location or you're like my company, which is virtual, literally, we have multiple time zones with my company. So we do a huddle once a week. In fact, every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. And that's 7:30 a.m. in parts of Europe. That is 5:30 a.m. in parts of Asia and Oceania, like in parts of Australia. Now, we have one huddle, and I call it a huddle versus a scrum. The scrum is a rugby term because a huddle is like American football, not soccer, where the quarterback gets together. I'm the quarterback in my company, and we talk about the play. And then we get lined up, and then we execute the play. We either fail or we succeed. Now, with a scrum, if you've ever seen rugby, they throw the rugby ball underneath, and people are like, these big guys are going back and forth. There's too much movement. There's no planning there. It's just a lot of exertion. So I don't like calling it a scrum, although most business um, authors have called it the scrum mentality. I like to call it a huddle because it's a planning meeting. We do it for 1 hour. We have a rhythm. We have different parts of the meeting where we're talking about a revenue generating activity that we did, one that we're about to do. We have the most valuable driver award, people who are driving other people and driving the project. That's about scaling. We start with a victory, like what's a victory, personal or professional. So that's a whole process. That's a different masterclass that if you want to get deeper into that. But we have a weekly huddle. If you don't huddle weekly, now, many people who have businesses in a physical location, they have a daily standing meeting. That's where they're standing, and they meet for about 10 to 15 minutes, and they just go over the day, and it's a great time to gather. There's a company called 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I know the CEO, Brian Scooterer, and they have a huddle every single day at the same time, and they have offices all over the world. And the huddle lasts less than 15 minutes, but at least they're gathering, and that's the way you can scale your business, when people are meeting and sharing ideas. Number 3, no revenue mindset with all your employees. The only way you can grow is to generate revenue. Now, revenue is not profit. Revenue is the potential cash that's coming in. The profit is what's left after you paid all the expenses. So you can have high revenue and literally zero profit. But without revenue, there is no profit. So what you want is for every single team member, if you're going to scale your business, if you're going to grow, and that starts with you. Like, you want to start with you first and then make sure that other people do it. You want every single team member to have a revenue mindset of, how is what I'm doing right now a revenue generating activity? Let's say you're doing customer support. How could that be a revenue generating activity? Well, let's say you're supporting someone, they're having a problem, you fix it, and you say, take a closer look at Masterclass Theater. I know you have this product of Alex's, but take a closer look at that. Go check out that sales page. Or how about, would you like to have a discovery session? If you qualify, you'll spend about half an hour with one of Alex's mentors, and you may be mentored personally for Guerrilla Business Online. So that's where customer support becomes a revenue generating activity. How can someone who's creating your content be a revenue generator? For example, someone who's writing a blog, how does that generate revenue? Well, let's say the blog is on a page, and then just on one side, there are different affiliate partners or different offers that people can click related to the blog post. And now that becomes a revenue generating activity. Now, does that mean that they're going to click it? No. But if you have the revenue mindset, RM, then it's more likely that it will grow. And that's the kind of people you want to bring in. Every single person in your company should have a revenue mindset, starting with you. How do we generate revenue? Not how do we serve our customers? That's secondary. Not how do we take care of our employees? That's primary. But before that, how do we generate revenue? What activity can generate revenue? Because without revenue, you have no business. All right. Next, we have poor documentation. You don't have written steps. You don't have videos. You don't have screenshots. My team is awesome. I ask them to document one thing that they do really well, because I want to get documentation in. And the best documenter on our team, I already know who it is. And that person is watching this Facebook Live. But if you're reading or listening, his name is John. And John has an engineering mind. So he naturally knows how to document, because as an engineer, you got to document things. I mean, an architect gives you a design, but is that structure going to actually sustain itself? Are people going to be in danger, being in that building or going over that bridge or whatever it is in that parking lot? My dad is a civil engineer, and he's been most of his life. He wanted to be an architect, and his mom and his dad, my grandparents, couldn't afford to send him to the architectural school at the University of Southern California. So we went to civil engineering school at the University of California at Los Angeles, which is UCLA. They're rivals, USC versus UCLA. And he became a civil engineer. Now, he has a design mind, but if the design of the architect, if that beautiful design can't be sustained, then the plans have to change. And so when you look at documentation, are the steps, are they duplicable? Can someone look at those steps and duplicate them? So maybe it's not writing them. Maybe it's a video with a transcript. Maybe it's screenshots of what they need to do. It all depends on the business that you're in. I know when you're not making the money that you want to make, I know that if you're not able to pay the bills, the last thing you want to think about is documentation. But believe me, if you don't think of documentation in the beginning, you won't be thinking documentation when you're making millions of dollars. If you believe in the principle of tithing, giving 10% or a percentage of your paycheck to a cause, to your spiritual persuasion, whatever that may be, your religion, whatever, church, synagogue, mosque, whatever. If you don't tithe 10 cents from a dollar, if you made a dollar, let's say in a day, I think 2 billion people make less than $2 a day on the planet. Can you imagine? So if you make more than $2, you're better than 2 billion people on earth. So if you don't tithe 10% of a dollar and you made that in a day, you're not going to tithe 100,000 out of a million, right? You say, well, I'll start tithing and apply the principle when I'm making $1 million. No, you won't. You say, I'll scale when I start getting bigger. No, you won't. Why? Because if it's not a habit, if it's not part of the operating procedure of your company, you won't do it. I promise you. How do I know? And what gives me the right to say that? I am the best example of it because I've failed to scale. And by failing to scale, I have limited my growth when my students have passed me up. Nothing is more annoying when a student passes you up. I guess it's an honor, but they become your teacher because they have better scaling ability. Ryan Dice comes to mind. Perry Belcher comes to mind, of Digital Marketer. Vishen Lakhani of Mind Valley comes to mind. Stu McLaren comes to mind. I can go on and on. Russell Brunson didn't want to purchase my Teleseminar Secrets course because he thought it was too expensive in 2006. Now he's got ClickFunnels and he's going to make 9 and maybe even 10 figures. He learned and acknowledged how to scale. He committed to scaling. And then the biggest mistake you can make is putting your clients or customers or patients before your team. Your team is your number one priority. That's not me saying it. That's a billionaire saying it with a bunch of white hair. And he's a Sir Richard Branson. He says, take care of your employees and your employees will take care of your customers. So when you are in the scaling mentality, the customer is not always right. The customer doesn't come first. Your team comes first. Because when you take care of your team will take care of your customer. Key point, if your business fails to grow without you, you don't have a business. Let me repeat. If your business fails to grow without you, you don't have a business. I could honestly say, if something happened to me, my business and revenue would dwindle down to nothing within about a year. If being generous, 2 years. I don't have a business. It's not scalable right now for me. So why am I teaching this? What gives me the right to teach it? Well, my students know how to scale. I know how to scale. I just haven't done it. And so the reason I'm teaching it is because I need to learn it. And I want you to learn it with me because we're both vulnerable. This is a huge vulnerability in business. Scale in the beginning. Because if you don't scale in the beginning, if you don't have that mindset, you're not thinking like a McDonald's or a Starbucks. You're not thinking about how to duplicate yourself. Then you're going to be a solopreneur for the rest of your life. or a guru, right? Now, 4 secrets to boost your sales value when you exit. What does exit mean? All right, well, exit means that you get to sell the company. The value of your company upon exit is how you make most of the money. Think YouTube, think Instagram, think WhatsApp. I can give you numerous examples within the digital marketing space. So I want you to think about how to boost your ability to exit. And I'm going to give you 4 different tips. Number 1, okay, you need to rebrand to a higher industry multiple. Now, that's a mouthful. Those are 5 words, but what does that mean? All right. If you have a software, okay, and you're in that industry, in the software business, let's say what's called SaaS, software as a service. And let's say that you were really good at doing one thing in manufacturing, and you were in the software business. If you sold that company and you're in the software business, being good at what you do, having the same skill sets, even if you scaled your business, the software business would be worth over 30 times more than the manufacturing business on exit when you were selling the company. Why? Because the ability to increase the value of the software business, it's faster, it's easier, and it's going to take less human effort than expanding the size of manufacturing. I mean, what business is Amazon in? They're in multiple business. They're in the real estate business, really, but they make about 24 cents out of every US dollar generated online. But they really have their logistics down. They're in the business of logistics, and now they can start acquiring other businesses that have more value than a simple online e-commerce website, because that's what they were. They were selling books. They were e-commerce, but now they have finance. Do you know that General Motors, GM, right? They've been in the news lately because they shut down some plants here in the United States where I live. Their finance department is the most profitable division of their company. They don't make money from cars, a little bit, but they don't make money. So if you're in the car manufacturing business, that's not as profitable of an industry or a niche as, let's say, finance, because finance can grow faster, better, and easier. It's more nimble. Just think about it. You know, manufacturing cars, you got to have a new plant if you want to grow. So think about the industry you're in so that you increase the multiple when you sell. Let me give you an example. I'll give you 3. If you're in the advertising business, okay, according to sources that you can find online, offline, then your multiple of selling the business is 1.71 times your sales. But if you're in entertainment, which is different than advertising, 2.88. Well, what does that mean? That means if you just change the niche you're in, but you're doing the same thing and you're still doing the same thing well, you can almost double your exit value. What about publishing? If you're in the business of publishing books or how-to courses, your multiple is 0.91. That's not very good of sales, right? But what if you're in the information service business, right? Then 4.66, over 4 times, or about almost 5 times the value upon exit. So that's a really great way to plan as you're scaling your business. Here's the key point. Repositioning your industry boosts your value. So look up industry exit multiples on Google, and you can find all the different industries. Many times they're called SIC codes, SIC. I forgot what I think it's stand. I'm not going to even say it because I'll have a lot of people tell me that I'm wrong. But SIC codes, there are multiple businesses within certain niches that are worth more than others. Farming, right, has a certain SIC code attached to it, and it has a multiple. As a farmer, if you were to sell your farm, it has a certain multiple attached to it, no matter how much money you're making. But if you had a farming software as a service that made farming faster, easier, and better, well, first of all, that's more nimble, it's more adaptive, and that's going to be worth 30 to 40 times more, no matter how much money you're making, just because of the industry it's in. This is something for you to think about, even if you're a startup. Number 2, act as if you'll sell your business in 3 years. Now, this is something really important. If you believe that you're going to sell your business in 3 years, then you need documentation. You need a way to transfer that knowledge to somebody else. You need for the business to work without you. Well, let me ask you a question. Can your business work without you? That's the question. Can it? If the answer is no, then you don't have a business. But if the answer is yes, then you do have a business, because you're treating it like a franchise, like a McDonald's. Number 3, hire team members that makes you dumber. You want to be the dumbest person in the room. So you want to hire people who are smarter than you. So hire team members so that you're the dumbest person in the room when you're interacting. And why is that important? That's because there's no possibility you can be the smartest in every activity within your business. There are going to be people smarter than you. That's why you hire them, not just to assist you, but so that they can help the business grow. So imagine if you're the dumbest person in the room, or the dumbest person on the chat, or the Skype call, or the Zoom chat, or the conference call. That's how to hire people. Make them smarter than you. Every person I have that works in a specific position, my general manager, my online business manager, my content manager, my production manager, my coaching manager, right? Repurposing manager, ad manager, whatever manager, pick a manager. They're all smarter than I am in that area. And I ask them for advice. So that's what you want as well. That's the only way to hire someone. And finally, create monthly recurring revenue. That's called MRR, monthly recurring revenue, to boost your sales value. Now, here's something that's interesting. If you have a business that's generating sales, that's good. If you have a business that has monthly recurring revenue, like a friend of mine, his name is Dave Allred. He sells wine. It's a very special boutique type of wine. It's organic wine. It has lower alcohol content, and people don't get a hangover after drinking it because it has no additives or poisons that normal wine has. As good as wine is, and you know, I've loved wine over the years. Napa is one of the great winemaking areas in the world, right there with France and other parts of the world that make wine. It's only about 50 kilometers away from where I'm sitting right now. There are certain additives, and it's not the alcohol that gives the headache or the hangover. It can be the additives, the preservatives, or all the things that are not natural within the grape. All right, so my friend David has built a company, and he sells wine, and they're all from outside the United States. Ironically, his storage facility is in Napa, and he has 14,000, not customers, members. What's a member? A member is someone who keeps buying again and again. Does that mean membership? Yes, it is. What's their average value per month? About $190. Imagine going from startup to over 20 million in just 3.5 years. That's what monthly recurring revenue is all about. So if you focus on monthly recurring revenue, then there's no way you can lose, because you have this safety net. You're on a trapeze, you're taking a fly, you're getting caught, you're coming back, and there's a net there even if you fall. That's the monthly recurring revenue. You can take a risk and try some crazy episodic launch of some kind, and if it doesn't work, you still have the monthly recurring revenue. That's what I did with Audio Generator. That's what I did with the Ask database. This is back near the year 2000, 2001. That's what I did with Instant Video Generator. That was before YouTube. I did that with Marketing Makeover Generator, which was the first generation of what you see now with ClickFunnels or Smart Pages or whatever, right? So the monthly recurring revenue is like a utility. You're getting paid month after month after month, and a membership site is a good way to do that. Here's the key point. MRR, monthly recurring revenue, routinely will boost your business value. In other words, the exit of your value by 3 times. By 3 times. You don't need as many customers if they keep paying month after month after month. And when you sell it, people are buying your cash flow, not just your business or your systems or your documentation. So think about that. If you were to buy a membership site that's generating $1 million a year, that is much more valuable. If the membership site is a monthly payment plan, that's much more valuable than if you were to buy $1 million business, because you don't know if you're as smart as the person you're buying it from, and if they had a great launch and that was episodic. It was an episode. Are you with me? Are you tracking with me, as Tony Robbins says? All right. So now, if you're not in North America, I'm going to give you a way to find out how you can scale through our Guerrilla Business Online program. And one of the ways to do that is if you want to attract high-end clients, it's scalable. It's easy to do it, but you need the process to do that. So by the time you talk to people, they're pre-qualified, you've disqualified everyone else. And so if you have a desire to see the way this works, then go to marketingonlineintake.com. If you're not in North America, okay? If you're outside of North America, Canada, US, then go to marketingonlineintake.com. If you are in North America, then I'm going to have you use your smartphone, and I want you to text the keyword without quotations, text intake, INTAKE, and then in the mobile phone number area, I want you to text it to this number. The number is 415-980-3555. 415-980-3555. And you will see the process of the way we scale our high-end clients. We have a coaching team. We have an intake, which minimizes the number of people that we talk to, which is important. We only want to talk to people who are pre-qualified, and all the other disqualified people are not talking to human beings, not because we don't like them, because human being interaction takes time. You're in the H2H business. You're in the human to human business. So the final point is plan to scale for a faster, easier sale. That's the sale of your business, the value of your company. Plan to scale for a faster and easier sale. I feel really smart for coming up with that, and hopefully it'll be a little jingle one day. I'm Alex Mondosian, and my hope is that you will take what you've learned from this masterclass, and what you took is scaling to instantly boost the value of your business because of the industry you're in, because of the employees that you have or team members who document, and because you have the franchise or mentality. All good wishes, and I hope our paths cross again soon.